The ring made a soft clink when I slid it across the bar. The bartender looked at it, then at me, then back at the ring. He didn't ask questions. Maybe he'd seen this kind of thing before. Maybe he just knew. Some people come in to celebrate love, others to bury it. She'll be back, I said, my voice thinner than I wanted it to be. She's with a guy? Tall. Blue coat. Kisses her shoulder when he thinks no one's watching. Just give this to her when they walk in. He hesitated, then gave a slow nod. No sympathy, no curiosity, just a silent agreement between two men who understood something was ending. I left before I could change my mind, before the rest of me caught up with what my hands had just done. Outside, the cold hit me harder than expected. Or maybe it was just the adrenaline draining. My legs didn't feel real. My thoughts were sprinting, crashing into each other like bumper cars. I walked 3 blocks before I realized I was still holding her scarf. It smelled like that lavender crap she puts in our laundry, something I used to tease her about. Something I think I'll miss more than I should. I should probably explain how we got here, but the truth is, I don't fully know. It wasn't one moment. It wasn't a big betrayal. It was paper cuts. 1,000 of them. Quiet absences. Half-truths. Late texts. Sudden showers before bed. That new password on her phone. The weird perfume she never wore before. The name, Luca, that popped up once and never again. You don't need evidence when your body already knows. Your chest gets tight when she laughs a little too hard at a joke you didn't tell. Your hands shake when she says, "It's nothing," for the 5th time that week. And when she kisses you goodbye, you count the seconds to see if it still feels like home. Last week it stopped at 2. Tonight, she said she was going out with the girls. But I saw the message. She'd left it open by mistake, maybe on purpose, who knows. I can't wait to see you again. I've missed you. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at the message until the letters started blurring. Then I put the ring in my coat pocket, just in case I needed it for something other than a promise. Turns out I did. I walked past the alley 3 times before I saw them. He held her hand like he owned it, not like someone borrowing it. Like someone who'd been doing it a while, long enough to stop pretending they shouldn't be seen. They were laughing about something. She tilted her head back the way she used to with me, back when my stupid jokes meant something. My first instinct was to walk straight up and punch him in the mouth. But I didn't, because deep down, I knew this wasn't his betrayal. It was hers. He was just the symptom. She was the disease. They crossed the street, heading toward the bar. I watched from a doorway like some creep in a noir film, my hands shaking so bad I nearly dropped her scarf. My wedding ring was still on. I hadn't even thought to take it off. For some reason, that made me angry. Not at her. At myself. Like I was still hoping this was all a misunderstanding. That she'd look up, see me, and explain it away with a story so good it'd erase everything. But she didn't look up, and I didn't interrupt. I followed them in. Not close enough to be seen. Just enough to watch. They went straight to the booth by the window. Our booth. The same one where she told me she wanted kids someday. The same one where I told her about my dad's cancer, and she cried into her gin and tonic. It was ours. Now it was theirs. He touched her knee. She didn't flinch. That's when I stood up. Not fast. Not dramatic. Just slow enough to feel like gravity was pulling me through molasses. I walked up to the bar, slid the ring toward the bartender, and gave him the message. That was it. No speech. No confrontation. No dramatic ending. I walked out the door and into a world that felt foreign. The air smelled different. My legs moved like they didn't belong to me. I don't even remember walking home. I just remember unlocking the door and realizing her keys were still in the bowl. Like she still lived here. Like she still planned to come home later and act like none of it ever happened. I should have packed her things. Thrown them out. Set them on fire. Something. But instead, I sat at the kitchen table for an hour and scrolled through old texts. Read the one where she said she never felt safe with anyone but me. The one where she told me I was her best friend. Her home. I started laughing. Then crying. Then laughing again. And that was the moment I realized. You don't lose someone all at once. You lose them in stages. Slowly. Quietly. One lie at a time. She walked in at 1:42 a.m. I know because I'd been sitting on the couch watching the clock like it owed me an apology. The front door creaked the way it always does, but this time it sounded louder, like it was ashamed to let her in. She didn't see me at first. She tiptoed, shoes still on, keys clutched tight in her fist like a kid sneaking in past curfew. When she finally turned and saw me sitting there in the dark, her face did this thing I'll never forget. Not shock, not guilt, just pause. Like she was buffering, calculating. Hey, she said casually, like she hadn't been out with another man, sitting in our booth, in our bar, laughing the way she used to laugh with me when things still felt like ours. I didn't say anything. I just stared. She dropped her purse by the door and slipped off her coat. Careful, slow, like she thought she could still reset the night by moving softly. I watched her move around the room like a stranger. Everything about her felt misaligned. Her eyes darted too quickly. Her smile held no weight, and there was a perfume on her I didn't recognize. Not the lavender one she wore for work. This one was bolder, sharper, something for someone new. Did you eat? She asked, walking toward the kitchen like it was just another Thursday. That's when I spoke. Just 2 words. He's tall. She froze. Her back was still to me. I could see her hand tighten on the fridge door. Then she turned, slowly, trying on different expressions until one seemed safe. What are you talking about? I laughed. Not because it was funny, because I was so far past pain, my body didn't know what to do with the emotion anymore. It just chose the nearest available sound and let it out. Luca, I said. Her face twitched, just barely. That was all I needed. She crossed her arms. Defensive. Were you following me? I didn't have to, I replied. You left the chat open last week. I read enough. She opened her mouth to respond, but I cut her off. You know what the worst part is? I asked. It's not that you lied. It's that you stopped being afraid to get caught. Silence. I stood up and walked to the counter, where I'd set the scarf she left in the car. I held it out to her. You forgot this. She didn't take it, so I dropped it on the floor between us. She flinched at the sound. Not because it was loud, but because it was final. Something about the way fabric hits tile when it no longer means anything. That's a sound you don't forget. Then I told her what I did. That I left the ring with the bartender. That I asked him to give it back when she showed up with the tall guy in the blue coat. She looked like she wanted to say something, anything, but the words never came. Because there was nothing left to explain. And suddenly, her silence said everything. She followed me into the bedroom like a shadow that refused to disappear. I didn't tell her to come. I didn't tell her to stay out. She just stood in the doorway while I packed a bag I hadn't planned to use. I didn't even know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't sleep next to someone who'd come home reeking of someone else's cologne and lies. Glenn, wait, can we just talk? She said it softly, like the right tone might undo everything. Like this was just a misunderstanding between 2 reasonable adults. Like I hadn't just watched her sit across from another man with her knees tucked toward him, like she was trying to make her whole body smaller just to fit inside his gaze. I'm not mad, I said, and meant it. I wasn't. Rage had come and gone. Now it was just this weird emptiness, like someone had pulled the plug on my chest, and all the noise had drained out. Then why are you leaving? She asked, stepping into the room like it was still hers. Because I don't want to hate you, I said. That made her pause. Her eyes welled up, and for a second, I saw the woman I used to know. The one who cried during Pixar movies and whispered random facts in the dark just to make me laugh. But the thing about betrayal is, once it happens, your memories become hostages. You can't go back to them without dragging the pain with you. She sat on the bed. My side. Of course. I didn't mean for it to happen, she whispered. I zipped the duffel bag slowly. They never do. There was a silence then, thick, suffocating. She tried to fill it. It started after your mom's surgery. You were distant, quiet all the time, and I needed someone to talk to. I turned, not fast, not dramatic, just tired. So you picked someone who wanted to sleep with you? Her eyes dropped. He was there. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. So was I. You pushed me away. I was grieving. I know, she said, and I hated how helpless I felt. So you chose control, I replied. You chose to matter to someone again, to feel wanted. She nodded, and that's when I knew she didn't regret it. Not really. She regretted being caught. She regretted the mess. But not him, and not losing me. Because if she did, she would have burned the whole thing down the moment it started. Not just covered it in perfume and excuses. I don't want this to end, she whispered. I looked at her sitting there in her makeup and her guilt, and I realized something brutal. I didn't love her anymore. Not in the way that makes you fight for something. Not in the way that forgives. I loved the version of her I thought existed. The one who wore fuzzy socks and danced with me in the kitchen to bad 80s music. The one who used to look at me like I was the plot twist in her favorite book. But that woman? She was gone. And in her place was someone who let me rot in silence while she chased butterflies in other people's beds. I didn't say any of that. I just grabbed my keys and walked out. She didn't follow. And for the first time in months, I didn't want her to. I checked into a roadside motel about 40 minutes out of town. Not because it was cheap, but because it was anonymous. No one there cared why a man showed up with swollen eyes and a bag full of wrinkled clothes. The receptionist didn't even look up when I paid in cash. That was fine. I didn't want kindness. I wanted silence. The room was pathetic. A TV bolted to the dresser, a bed that creaked if you exhaled too loud, and curtains stained with a history no one had bothered to bleach out. It was perfect. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall for what felt like hours. I didn't turn on the light. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't even take off my coat. I just sat there, floating in this weird mental space where everything hurt, but nothing bled. My phone buzzed. It was her. One video message. No text. No explanation. I should have ignored it. Should have deleted it and gone to sleep. But that's the thing about betrayal. You want more of it. You want to stare at the wound, poke it, make sure it's real. So I tapped play. It was a clip of her crying, sitting on the floor of our bedroom, wearing one of my old hoodies, the one she used to steal because it smelled like home. Her knees were pulled to her chest. Her hair was messy, like she'd been running her hands through it for hours. No makeup, no masks. Just Elise, raw and red-eyed. I don't know what to say, she started. You won't pick up. You won't text back. I get it. I know I messed up. I ruined everything. And I deserve it. But please, Glenn, I need you to hear this. I wanted to turn it off. I wanted to throw the phone across the room. But I couldn't stop watching. You were always the one, she said. Even when I strayed. Even when I got lost in all that noise. It was never about him. It was about escaping. Escaping this version of me that felt broken. But now I just want to go back to you. I want to unknow him. I want to unhurt you. She broke down. Full sobs. Ugly, loud crying. And even then, a part of me wanted to hold her. That's the sick part. You think heartbreak kills love, but sometimes it just mutates it, twists it into something that confuses pain for purpose. I sat there long after the video ended, holding the phone like it was a grenade that never went off. And then, for reasons I still don't fully understand, I sent her one text. Why him? Her reply came 3 dots at a time. Slow, hesitant, calculating. Because he looked at me the way you used to. I don't know what I expected. An apology that made the pain poetic? A confession that could wrap the betrayal in soft words? Instead, I got honesty. And honestly, it wrecked me more than the lies ever did. I didn't reply. I just stared at that message until my screen dimmed. Then I shut off the phone, put it in the drawer, and sat there in the dark again. This time, not angry, not sad, just empty. The kind of empty that doesn't echo. The knock came 2 days later. Soft, familiar. I didn't move, just sat there on the bed, staring at the dent in the carpet where the motel chair had been slowly carving a home for itself. Another knock, then silence. I almost convinced myself it wasn't her. Maybe housekeeping, maybe a mistake. But then came her voice. Glenn, please. It wasn't a question. It was a request carved from guilt and desperation. I opened the door, not out of curiosity, not because I wanted to see her, but because I wanted to end the fantasy. In my head, she was still crying, still broken, still begging. But when I opened that door, what I saw wasn't a woman consumed by remorse. It was Elise in my old college hoodie, with hair pulled back in a loose bun, holding 2 cups of coffee like she hadn't just cracked our marriage open and bled it across the floor. I didn't know if you were still drinking it black, she said, offering the cup like peace had a flavor. I didn't take it. She looked down, embarrassed, or pretending to be. She stepped inside without permission, moved like the room still belonged to her. Like I still belonged to her. Elise, you shouldn't be here, I said. I didn't come to fight, she said softly, placing the cups on the nightstand like she planned on staying. I had to see you. Hear your voice. I don't care if you yell. I just needed you to be real again. I stayed standing. She sat on the edge of the bed. Our bodies were close, but it felt like we were continents apart. I could smell her, same shampoo, same perfume. And for a second, my traitor heart fluttered like it remembered something worth loving. I told him it's over, she said suddenly, almost too loud. I looked at her. You told him? She nodded, eyes wide like a confession would redeem her. Last night. I said I made a mistake. I said it was always you. I laughed under my breath. You told him. That's what you came here to say? That you cut off the guy you cheated on me with? You want a medal? Her eyes welled up. I didn't expect you to forgive me. I needed you to know I chose you. You chose me. I repeated, stepping back. You chose me after unchoosing me for 3 months behind my back. She tried to stand. I didn't let her. You don't get to pick me now like I'm some backup plan, I said, my voice sharp but low. I was the default. He was the experiment. I was the guy who paid bills and made dinner. He was the spark. And now that you burned everything down, you want me to hold the hose? She looked like she was going to cry. I didn't care. I miss you, she whispered. No, I replied. You miss the version of me who didn't know. She sat back down. Her hands trembled. And still, I knew she was calculating. This wasn't her falling apart. This was her adjusting the mask, looking for the angle, the crack in my resolve. Elise, I said quietly, I loved you so much I started shrinking just to fit inside the silence you left behind. But I'm done shrinking. Her voice was almost inaudible. Then this is goodbye? I don't think you understand, I said. It already was. She stood there for a while, frozen, like she was waiting for something else, some miracle line that would flip the script. But I had nothing left to say. I had burned the script. All of it. She left. And this time, I didn't watch her go. It took me a full day to realize what she'd left behind. I was packing my things to check out of the motel, clean shirts I hadn't touched, a half-eaten protein bar, the charger I almost forgot, when I noticed something under the edge of the bed. A small black notebook. Cloth-bound. No title. It could have been mine, honestly, except I hadn't written in a notebook since college. And I sure as hell didn't use pink sticky tabs. When I opened it and saw her handwriting, everything in me said don't read it. But I already had. The second I saw that looping lowercase e in her name on the first page, I was too far gone. I sat down slowly, as if gravity was warning me not to keep going. The first few pages were nothing. Grocery lists. Wine brands she wanted to try. Half-finished poems she probably thought sounded profound at 1 a.m. But then, about a third of the way through, the tone shifted. I didn't realize it at first, but then a date jumped out at me, one that meant something. March 17th. That was the day I stayed overnight at the hospital with my mom. The day Elise told me she was working late and too tired to talk when I called. Here's what that page said. He kissed me in the elevator. I didn't stop him. I should have, but I didn't. Glenn would never do that. He'd ask. He'd hesitate. He'd look into your eyes first like he's trying to see if you're sure. Luca just acted. God, I hate how that made me feel alive. I didn't blink for a full 10 seconds. I turned the page. I think I needed to be the bad guy. Just once. I needed to feel like I had control over something. Glenn is safe, sweet, loyal. But loyalty doesn't keep your heart beating. It just keeps the lights on. Luca, he's not safe. That's why he works. That sentence didn't just hurt. It rewrote things. Made me doubt every smile, every kiss, every apology. She hadn't just made a mistake. She hadn't just slipped. She planned the fall. She needed it. The pages that followed felt like stepping through a timeline of decay. My name came up less and less. Lucas came up more. But the real punch to the ribs? It wasn't her infatuation with him. It was how absent I became in her world, even while living right beside her. It was like reading a book where the main character dies halfway through, but no one in the story notices. Until one page. Dated a week before she came to the motel. Scribbled in rushed ink. Angrier handwriting. I thought leaving Luca would bring Glenn back. It didn't. He looked at me like I was someone he never really knew. Maybe I was never the woman he thought I was. Or maybe I became the version I feared most. The one who destroys the quiet people. That line. The one who destroys the quiet people. It echoed in my skull like a gunshot in an empty church. She knew exactly what she did to me. And she did it anyway. I closed the journal slowly. My hands were shaking again. Not from heartbreak. I'd bled that dry. This was something else. A final clarity. The moment when love rots into indifference. When all that's left is the dull ache of wasted effort and memory. She left it for me on purpose. I know that now. It wasn't forgotten. It was a weapon. One last swing to see if she could cut deep enough to matter again. But all it did was prove what I was starting to believe. She was never coming back. Because the version of me she betrayed? He died the moment I slid that ring across the bar. 3 weeks passed. I never told her this, but the bartender never gave her the ring. I went back the next day, early, before she could show up again. He handed it to me without a word, like he knew I'd come back for it. I took it and walked to the nearest bridge. Not to throw it off, not to make some symbolic dramatic gesture. I just stood there with it in my hand, sunlight bouncing off the metal, and I realized it was never really about the ring. It was about who I was when I gave it to her, and who I refused to be now. I put it in my coat pocket. Still have it, not as a memory of her, but as a reminder of myself, of what I survived. I moved out of that motel eventually, rented a small place near the edge of the city. Nothing fancy, just quiet. A coffee maker that works, a couch that doesn't creak, and a balcony where the sun lands perfectly at 7:13 a.m. I sit there every morning with a cup of black coffee, no sugar. Not because I like the taste, I still don't, but because I like how real it feels, how bitter it is, how honest. Some nights I walk through old neighborhoods, past the bar, past the bookstore where she first told me she loved me. I don't avoid those places anymore. I don't flinch when the memories tap on my shoulder. They're just that now, memories, not anchors. I started writing again. Not for anyone, just for me. Journals full of messy thoughts, small observations, even short stories. Some are terrible. One or two, I think, might be good. I don't write about her anymore. Not directly, but every now and then, a character says something she once whispered, and I let it stay on the page. Healing didn't come like a sunrise. It came in inches, in long, quiet evenings where nothing hurt, and that nothing was the miracle. I don't know what happened to her. We haven't spoken since that night in the motel. She texted me once, "I hope you're okay." I didn't answer, not out of hate, just because I didn't need to. But here's the part one didn't expect. I met someone, not the way movies show it. No bumping into each other at the farmer's market. No reaching for the same book in a library. We were both late to a small writing workshop. I forgot a pen. She gave me hers. Her name is Marley. She hates mornings, loves thunderstorms, and has a weird obsession with lighthouses. She knows everything. I told her the whole story, every ugly part. She didn't flinch. We're not rushing. We're not labeling it. But last week, she reached for my hand without asking. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't pull away.